Tour Guides. I'm Carrie.
I'm Catherine.
And I'm Bree.
Today we are taking you on a tour of Edinburgh. I've never been. I'm dying to go. I'm reading Outlander right now, and I just want to go to Scotland so bad because
Edinburgh is
everything.
my favorite place in the entire world.
Yep.
Period.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've been several times. And I've been to a lot of incredible cities that I love for many different reasons. And Edinburgh, I have never felt more at home, more excited, more enlightened. It's a poetic fucking city, and I love it. Everything about it.
Yep. Totally agree. That's what, every time I talk about Edinburgh, I was like, I have never felt so at home in a place.
No,
Even at my home, like, I have never felt so at home.
I love Edinburgh.
It's amazing.
And I took my students to Edinburgh and my family to Edinburgh, and I went and stayed with a friend when we were both studying abroad. Hi, Kristen. And I've spent time there, like, not just passing through. Like, I've spent a lot of time there multiple times, and I love it. It's my favorite place. I can't wait to take my husband.
Yeah, I went there when I studied abroad, and I did like a long weekend because it was my last trip. And this is how you know I love a place. I was sick. I need to get away from the microphone. I was sick still from my trip to visit Catherine in London.
My bad.
And it was finals week, so I'm like fucking hallucinating from my fever taking finals. And then I go to Edinburgh on a tiny ass plane. And I was just starting to get better. And my friend Cameron was like, this is our last trip. Do you want to hike up Arthur's Seat and watch the sunrise? And I was like, yeah, let's do the damn thing. So we went to bed at 3 a.m. after I showered in the hostel. And then the other people in my hostel room left the fucking window open all night in December in Edinburgh.
Oh.
It's cold.
It's so cold. And so I was sick when we woke up at 5 a.m. to walk across the city and then hike up Arthur's Seat.
Aww.
Did you put the dew on your face?
I did not.
Well,
I had dew on my face from my fucking snot and everything.
I'm supposed to take it from the ground. Breathe it up.
Stop.
She keeps coming up and licking me. She licks them and goes,
Lay the fuck down!
I'm so scared.
Need to lay down, please. And so, good girl. So I was sick. I'm trying to breathe and I can't because I suck at it anyway, but especially when I'm sick.
Breathing is hard.
It is. It really is.
Word.
And my nose kept running. It's fucking 5 a.m. and it's dark. We can't see our way up. And so we're just trying to feel our way around in the dark. We finally get up there and, again, running nose. Super cute. Wrapped up in all of the scarves and the coats and the rain jackets. And actually lost a mitten up there. The wind took it. That's how windy it was.
No.
And so we got our pictures, and it was still amazing. And then I went back to Italy, took my Dante final, in which I hallucinated like a motherfucker, and then apologized to my professor because I have no clue what was on that exam. Like, I don't know what I wrote. I was hallucinating from my fever. And then flew back to Texas, so sick. I felt like I gargled glass. My nose was stuffed and running. My eyes were about swollen shut. My nose was like all red and itchy, and I had a horrible cough, everything else. I get back thinking I'm gonna die. I make it to the airport, and I see my dad and my sister, and I start crying. He's like, I knew you missed me. And I was like, no, I'm just so glad to be on ground. I thought I was gonna die. And then we went home, and my stepmom, who I guess went to school to be a doctor in Costa Rica, checked me out, and I had severe strep throat and a severe ear infection. Oh yeah, my ears were super plugged and popping and bad things on the plane. I thought I was going to lose hearing. And I had a severe ear infection.
Oh.
And then I went out to my room and hallucinated with my fever for 4 days straight. And I still love Edinburgh.
There you go.
So, moral of that story, it's fucking amazing. Try the haggis. I don't care what you say. Try the fucking haggis. It's great.
You know what else is great?
Drank.
Scotch.
Yeah.
So since we're in Scotland, we are going to talk a little bit about Scotch whiskey. As I've ranted before with bourbon, Scotch is subjected to very strict guidelines.
Sure
right.
The specifications for scotch is that it must come from Scotland. It is made from barley and other grains. The color is usually pale straw or gold to a rich nutty amber. There is a minimum ABV of 40%.
Bless.
It is aged for a minimum of 3 years, but often longer in oak casks. And
Gotta
it's
give the angel share.
I was about to say.
and it's notated on the bottles how long it's aged for. Also, if you're looking for a legit Scotch whiskey, look, the whiskey doesn't have an E. So if it has an E in it, you're getting screwed. That's as far as I'm going with Scotch because it's like wine where you can take a deep dive into spiral. And
So before I was allergic to gluten, the first time I was in Scotland, I could still have gluten. Well, I couldn't, but I didn't know I couldn't, so I was blissfully unaware. And I did like Scotch tasting with some people that I met there, and it's so good.
So good.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm not really a dark alcohol person. I typically don't like them. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. But maybe it was just because I was cold and everything was so beautiful.
yeah.
And I did it on my way back because I took a trip up to the Highlands to go to Loch Ness. It was freezing.
Yes.
I was there for Thanksgiving. Or the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was there literally like December 10th.
Yeah, I was there the week before Thanksgiving because I got back and the one American restaurant in the town we were at threw us a Thanksgiving party for all the Americans.
That's so cute.
Yeah, it was adorable. They like hung up signs for us and were like, Happy Thanksgiving! We're like, thank you. It was so cute. But so we went to, like, I went up to Loch Ness. It was so cold. And it was me and, like, the boat captain. And then this one other kid who was, like, my age probably. Also probably just, like, traveling. And we were, like, sitting on benches across from each other. It was so cold. And I swear I saw a Nessie. But I refused to admit that I saw a Nessie because, what? But I was like, oh, my God. There she was. And then me and the other guy are like, really? And then unmarked black fighter jet flew over top of us and broke the sound barrier. It was going so fast. And then it like echoed, and the guy looked over at me and he's like, did we see Nessie and aliens? And I was like, bro.
Yes.
And
Scotland.
we didn't say a word to each other.
Honestly though, for real though,
It
Scotland.
was magical.
It's
and
not
I had
real.
to go
It
into a
is.
pharmacy. I like stumbled into a pharmacy and was like, I am so carsick. And I have to go get on this boat. And I'm so sick. And she's like, oh, love, let me help you. And she got me like the seasickness. And she's like, I've lived in the Highlands my whole life and I still can't handle the roads. And I was like, bless you. So she like gave me a prescription drug.
Yes.
That's
For
adorable.
seasickness because I was so sick. And then I was fine. And I may or may not have hallucinated Nessie because of my seasickness medicine. I don't know.
That's
it was
fair.
good.
Yeah.
Lots of hallucinations in Scotland, bro.
Yeah.
Fun.
I need to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so every cocktail that I found had scotch in it. Go figure.
Yeah.
So tonight we are drinking the Rob Roy. It was created in homage to the Scottish hero Robert Roy McGregor, who was an outlaw and lived in the Scottish Highlands. To locals, he became a sort of...
Does.
Do it.
I said as any good Scottish outlaw does.
Right. Let's go to the Highlands.
Where
Right
else
to
is
Heather.
Heather? Glasgow.
Oh, yeah.
But he was sort of a Scottish Robin Hood, and they told a lot of folktales about him because, I mean, he helped the locals, and so they wanted to spread his legacy. These tales ended up leading to his pardon in 1726. So he ended up passing away in 1734, but his legacy still lives on in this cocktail. So there was a 3-part operetta named Rob Roy by composer Reginald de Koven and lyricist Henry B. Smith, which premiered in 1894 in New York. And they invented this drink. It was actually in New York. It's close enough. It was last week's. It's fine.
Crossover.
Right. Crossover. But it was for Rob Roy McGregor and this opera. They were like, every good opera needs a drink. So they created this.
That's a perfect drink for you, Carrie.
I know, right? The Waldorf Astoria Hotel created the drink for the operetta, but, you know, this legacy stems from Scotland. So here we go. It's 2 ounces of scotch. I used monkey shoulder, which is what my husband likes to buy because your girl doesn't do whiskeys. There's a story behind that. We're not going to talk about it. 3/4 ounces of sweet vermouth, 3 dashes of Angostura bitters, and you garnish with brandied cherries, combine over ice and stir. Strain into a chilled cocktail glass and garnish with brandied cherries. I didn't have brandied cherries, so I used maraschino, and it's just as good. It's not quite that bite, I guess. It's not as rich. Still good.
It's a pretty color.
It is.
I am drinking a rosé from Trader Joe's.
Oh yeah, I bought 2 French rosés because... Not 2 French rosés. 2 French wines. One's a rosé, one's a white. Because, I said, I don't usually do whiskeys, regardless of where they come from. And in case I could not do this one, I had to have a backup. And I knew Catherine couldn't have it, so she had to have a backup. Brie likes scotch.
I'm sure that girl loves her some scotch.
Yeah.
Also, if you hear crinkling, I got some mochi balls.
Yeah, I can pass these. I had my third.
I know, I've had my third of these now, so I'm just gonna give that there, and then Catherine has her third of the other.
We're switching.
Yep, we're rotating our mochi balls. And speaking of food, we had a delicious dinner tonight.
So good.
It was pretty good. I had a nice, I'd eaten what I had in several different British cities, and so I did the best I could. So I'm not going to put that in my mouth right now, even though I picked it up, and it looks like a ball sack.
It does look like a ball sack.
Look at that.
It's fitting with our theme for tonight.
Oh, God. I don't know what to do. I dropped my mochi.
What to do with the ball sack?
I didn't know what to do with the ball sack. And
I
it's also a
put it in my
tea.
mouth.
It's a tea-flavored ball sack.
Well, I was just listening to Wine and Crime where they talked about scams, and they talked about the goat ball guy.
Oh, yeah.
Who put the goat balls to cure, any sort of penis illness, so...
Do not put goat testicles anywhere near me. I love goats, but that's crossing a line. Okay, so I made bangers and mash. Speaking of balls, love a good banger. So bangers and mash is essentially a fairly common British dish that has different variations based off of your mum and your location. So I did a beef banger, which is a sausage.
Ew.
And they're named bangers.
It was a big old sausage.
It was hilarious. There's a pretty good video I have. So I did a beef sausage, and they were traditionally called bangers because when you heat them up enough in the pan, the skin would burst and it would go bang in the pot. So I did beef sausages, and I made homemade mashed potatoes, which is the mash. We served it with green peas, and I made a homemade, because I had to make it gluten-free, and also it just tastes better homemade, onion gravy, which is traditionally served on top, which is basically caramelized onions, and I added some garlic because I'm not a monster.
Yeah.
And chicken stock, and a roux, which is butter and flour usually, but I use butter and cornstarch, and made a delicious homemade onion, which is like salty and kind of sweet because of caramelized onions, and you kind of just smush them all together and eat it, and it's pretty tasty. It's very hearty, but the gravy kind of lightens it up a little bit. Ironically, you wouldn't think of a gravy as being a lightening agent, but because it has that sweetness to it, and the peas add some textural elements, it's very good, and it's very wholesome. It's a wholesome meal, and I think it was a hit.
Oh yeah.
It was delicious. You know.
I just keep making dick jokes.
That too. But I do love me some potatoes and sausage.
And my homemade mashed potatoes are pretty good. I am not trying to brag, but my Irish heritage comes forth when I make potatoes.
With the famine?
Uh-huh.
Damn. Yo, goddamn Irish. Shots fucking fired, man.
My family literally died, Carrie.
For real, though.
My family had to escape.
Same, we changed our last name.
Well, people escaped into my place today because of the famine, so that's why it was on my brain.
Shots fucking fired, man. Okay.
I'm Irish too, bitches.
Bitches. That sentences our friendship too. Yeah. I also love this weekend how my sister here, Zach, was like, she talks like you. I was like, yeah, I know her well. She's like, bitch, blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
winning the Jackbox games. He's like, I'm just so bad at these. I'm like, bitch, you're winning.
I lost all of them. I was not funny this weekend, but that's okay.
We're just not going to talk about this weekend.
I'm normally not funny, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. It's ironic I have a comedy podcast.
It's because our laughter is infectious.
I still think it's funny that we're considered a comedy podcast.
I meant we tried.
We're funny.
Catherine over here eating her ball sack. Stop! Why did you do that? Why did she put it in her mouth and like stretched it and pulled it back out?
It's so gross. Well, I know how delicious.
Laying down.
Oh my god. Are we done with the food? I don't
Oh
need
my gosh.
to visualize Catherine licking balls at all.
Ew.
That's what
That's what it looks like.
Catherine.
I'm trying to eat while laying on the floor.
Quit licking your balls.
Ew. I don't even have balls. And this one deflated.
Because you're playing with
I
it.
dated a guy like that once. He really did only have one. He lost the other.
Oh, one of my students.
I have a student who's like it's probably like every other day, or at least once a week. I only have one ball. And I was like, you and Hitler. Like,
You and Hitler. And my ex-boyfriend.
One of my cool students. Everyone was talking about it, like, jokingly. And they all got quiet because they realized I was there. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And the kid was like, oh, Misty already knows.
Yeah.
It was a good bit. And I was like, oh God, why did everyone feel the need to tell me these things? There's a line, people.
yep.
Well,
Talk
speaking
about-
of a line. We're not going to talk about the line of succession, but we could have.
We could have, and we could talk about how everyone hates each other.
Yep.
I mean, I sort of talk about it, not going to lie.
You talk about Mary.
Okay, I mentioned her, but there was not enough time to do her
Aw.
justice. So I mentioned this later. I'm like,
We're
this
gonna
is
do
an
a part
episode
two.
that I demand we cover again later.
I have been to Holyrood.
So that I can talk about Mary Queen of Scots
Yes.
and everything else, and we will get
My
to
Scotch
Can we do a Royals?
I'll make chicken a la king.
Yeah. Well, you know that there are some haunted fucking Royals.
Oh, and I can make a ton of cake. Tons of different cakes
Mm-hmm.
named after kings. And I can make chicken a la king, and I can, literally, they all kill each other. So I have tons of material.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm crinkling. I'm putting away trash.
I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies. And I'm not proud of my dress. Something, no postcode envy.
Okay.
And everybody's like, green beans, something.
Green beans. Okay, we're going to do history now because we're off of the food. No more green beans, Catherine.
Uh-huh.
You're getting cut off.
You've been cut off.
I do like green beans, though.
They are good. No more green beans.
Okay. There.
Signs of habitation in the Edinburgh era, including Arthur's Seat. Like I said, Clarnetto. It's
Ew.
not like super tall, but we'll get into Arthur's Seat in more
Okay.
stuff. Castle Rock and the surrounding area go back to about 900 BC, and the earliest record of human sites in this area go all the way back to 8500 BC.
Nice.
Edinburgh is said to have originated from the Old English name for Edwin's Fort, as in King Edwin of Northumbria in the 7th century, so that would make it Edwin's Fortress, essentially.
Sure.
But this probably isn't true, because Edinburgh was probably named such prior to King Edwin. In fact, in 600 AD, they called it the Fort of Eden, or Din Eden. It's spelled different, so I have to figure out like how to say this in my head. Edinburgh actually has quite a few names. It also has been referred to as Old Greeky, aka the Athens of the North, and by the Scottish as Old Reeky, meaning North Smoky, I believe. This was due to the coal and wood fires that left a dark, smoky haze in the Edinburgh skies. Edinburgh has been referred to as the Athens of the North, not only because of its topography, but also because it is seen as the epicenter of Scotland's culture and intellect.
It's so pretty.
It's so fucking pretty.
It's Old Town pretty. New Town, old as hell still.
Yeah.
So pretty.
We're going to talk about both of those and how well Edinburgh does keeping their history. Anyway, Edinburgh replaced Scone as the capital of Scotland in 1437.
Did she scone?
Scone.
Scone. Scone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
I know. It just
Scone?
makes me hungry.
Scone?
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if I heard you right, because I don't know if you said
I almost made
scone.
tatty scones, which are potato scones, which are very Scottish.
Yeah, because I thought, again, hallucinating in Scotland. You might have said scone or scone and just kind of like, what?
Nope, that's what it was.
Okay.
It's also where Scottish Parliament sits, Edinburgh. So it's on the east coast.
It's a pretty
of
building.
Scotland.
It's new.
Yeah.
How new is new?
2000.
Oh.
It's like new, and people have thoughts. They're like, it's so ugly.
2004 maybe?
It's like
Oh, damn.
modern.
Yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be thinking of something else.
No, it's recent. It's like recent.
I know it's recent, but I can't remember the year.
And it's right over by Holyrood House, and everyone's like,
we're gonna talk about Holyrood House too.
Ooh.
I'll stop talking.
You're fine.
You
That
go,
wasn't
Bree.
like a cut you off.
No, I just really love Edinburgh.
Yes, so much. My section is a lot, and it's not even half of what I wanted to cover. So it's on the east coast of Scotland, and due in large part to its lack of development during the Industrial Revolution, much of its historical and natural beauty has remained intact.
Gorgeous.
Yes, it's actually proudly one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites.
Yay.
Perfect.
Located on the south bank of an estuary that leads out to the North Sea.
Yay.
The Firth of Forth. Say that 5 times fast.
The what?
Firth of Forth.
Okay.
With Edinburgh Castle sitting atop a volcanic rock overlooking the city. You can imagine just how natural that beauty is.
Also, they did such a wonderful job of
Yes.
turning the castle into a museum.
Yes.
And you can see the entire city from up, and they still. Do you talk about the dog cemetery?
About the what?
Dog cemetery.
I don't talk about the dog cemetery. No.
I'm gonna talk about the dog cemetery. So all the royal dogs that served and lived in the castle, they have their own burial site in the castle grounds behind the walls to honor all of the important castle dogs, and it overlooks the whole city, and it's beautiful, and I cried when I found out. And that's my story about the good puppers of Edinburgh.
There's also a pupper that sits watch or whatever outside the statue, outside of, is it the kirkyard?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you pet his nose for good luck. And
yeah.
It's bronze.
It's haunted.
Yeah. Oh, I know. We yeah.
Him a good boy.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about again?
The vaults.
Cool. Not talking about that, but we talking about the kirkyard. I'm talking about the
Go
kirkyard.
for it.
Okay, so don't get me wrong, there's plenty of city there to explore, but Edinburgh to me really is about natural beauty. I think it's even incorporated beautifully into the city aspect of the city.
Oh, yeah, the
You know what
whole
I mean?
middle part is like a park.
Yeah. It's
That separates Old Town and New Town. It's a park.
Oh, that's nice.
When we were there with my kids, they were doing a bagpipe and drum competition from all over Scotland.
What?
So we sat there.
What time of year was it?
It wasn't the tattoo. It wasn't the official.
Not that.
Oh, it was in June?
Might be too early for Fringe Festival.
Oh, it wasn't Fringe.
I can't remember. I've looked at a bunch of different festivals and shit.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Fringe. Because Fringe has a ton of theater. But it was just a bunch of high school age people. So my kids got to see other kids their age competing. And it was really cool.
That's cool.
But it's the park that's in the middle of everything.
Yeah. Well, there are businesses and museums and hostels and bars and everything else, but you can still see Edinburgh's history and natural beauty amongst all of that. And like we've been saying, it's fucking amazing. The crag on which Edinburgh Castle sits was actually formed with the help of glaciers because the surrounding rock was softer and therefore able to be eroded by the glaciers. But since the crag was made of volcanic rock, it was able to withstand time and nature. And that's where another one of Edinburgh's original names come from, Castle Rock. So, as I mentioned, it's done a good job of preserving its history and showcasing it, especially when it comes to architecture. And where better to see that than in Old Town with its well-preserved medieval street plans. Edinburgh's a combination...
Slippery AF.
Slippery AF, especially your fucking heels, man.
And in the rain, I just keep on sliding.
Fuck up your life.
So bad.
But it's so pretty.
It's worth it, but you hate yourself.
Yep. So it's a combination of the Old Town and the New Town. The New Town came around following the Jacobite rebellions when Edinburgh saw growing prosperity and therefore a growing population in the 16th century.
So new.
The Old Town couldn't hold all of the incoming people as it was pretty much limited to the area of the volcanic rock that we just talked about. But before they built New Town, they built high-rise residential spaces in Old Town that also extended underground for all of the immigrants.
So cool.
That will come into play later.
There was a haunted house in the vaults when I was there.
Really? That's exciting.
I
We'll
was
talk
too
about
scared.
some of the events.
I was just kidding. That's understandable.
Yeah.
There's fucking ghosts down there.
Too scared.
Many.
They're like, it's pretend. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's
No,
not.
there
down
are
there.
fucking ghosts
Absolutely
down there.
not.
We'll
So
talk
this
about
is-
them.
This is where the legends of the underground city of Edinburgh came from. Obviously, these high rises mimic the hierarchical, words are hard, food chain with the rich on top and the poor on the bottom. So, tons of ghosts, because the poor folk be dying down there.
It's like that Doctor Who episode.
Well,
Actually, it's like 2 different Doctor Who episodes.
we'll talk about it.
I know there was rich people too, but like...
No, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. So, it is an old town where you can find the Royal Mile, which I believe is actually less than a mile, like more around 107 or 70. I may have transposed that. Yards. I don't know. I think it's 107 yards. But don't hold that against them.
Yeah.
It's still the Royal Mile. Just fuck off.
It's the Royal Mile, not the regular mile.
Yeah.
There's also Princess Street, which is right over there, which is where all the high-end shopping is.
Where I live.
Yes.
It's literally called Princess Street. It's amazing.
Yes. As for Newtown and its construction, all the excess soil was dumped into Norloch, which led to the creation of what is now known as the Mound, home to the Royal Scottish Academy Building and the National Gallery of Scotland. And if that wasn't cool enough, they also carved freaking tunnels that lead to Waverley Station through the Mound.
Hey-o.
Like bosses. Alright, so throughout history, Edinburgh often fell into English hands, and Avi, Outlander, hello.
Oh yeah.
And because of this, Edinburgh often got mixed up in England's game of chess with Scotland. Hello, Mary Queen of Scots, Culloden, and the Jacobite rebellions.
Yep.
In fact, Edinburgh fell under the control of the Anglo-Saxons prior to the 10th century, which led to many a land dispute, with the English trying to lay claim to Scottish lands, and Scotland trying to defend itself from the English intruders. Again, hello, Jacobite rebellion and the body.
Wait a minute. England invaded?
No, I say that. That's one of my comments. Yeah.
I love you, England. I'm sorry.
Same,
I'm just
but
sassy
also-
today. And also,
True. Yeah.
we've all made mistakes in our past. We're from America. Believe me, we understand.
Uh-huh.
We have no room to talk. We're still making mistakes actively right now.
Yeah.
Looking at you, everyone. Get out and vote.
Uh-huh. First president in how long who didn't have a dog?
Blasphemy.
Tells you something.
Mm-hmm. Right, Fajita?
She's knocked the
Passed
fuck
out.
She said, I have no time for politics.
Okay, so things can get a little murky here, historically speaking. Who has the quote-unquote right to Scotland, so on and so forth. But if you haven't figured out my stance on interlopers yet, then you haven't been listening. So, it doesn't...
I don't like loping.
Nope. I guess it doesn't matter what I think, but...
Nope to lope.
In the... Nope to lope. T-shirt.
Nope to lope.
In the early 18th century, Scotland, quote-unquote, officially, permanently, question mark, came under English control.
Don't bring it up.
I know.
Also rough
I know,
timing for that.
I know.
A little bit less rough than last year, but still rough.
Yeah. I will say the Queen did officially open Scottish Parliament in July of 1999, allowing Parliament to reconvene for the first time in almost 300 years, 292 to be exact. And this allowed the Scottish people to make their own laws in terms of social care, health, and education.
Literally during our life.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yep. And along with constantly fighting with the English, Edinburgh also fell victim to some of our common themes, fires and plagues, due in large
Weird.
part to
Fire and
population growth.
Fires, plagues, and lopers.
Yep. Population growth and lack of sanitation. By the end of the 1600s, population had grown to around 50,000, which I know doesn't sound
Wait a
like
minute,
lot,
wait a minute.
but, like,
Fire, plagues. That equals bad things. What's happening in America?
Crazy.
Fires
Dumb
and plagues.
people in charge.
So, as for sanitation, human waste would be thrown from windows into the streets below.
Why do people love to fling poop on
Right.
downwards?
Or into Norloch, where it is believed people would also get their drinking water.
Yep.
That is, oh my,
Yep.
oh.
That's like the one
I wonder
episode
why we
with
have
the,
disease.
with the dead body cemetery water.
Oh,
But they didn't know they were drinking people.
Right.
gosh.
Yep. Pretty gross.
Poop water is like so dangerous.
Yeah,
Poop water
I
is
know.
almost more dangerous than dead body water.
Yeah.
Because of how many bacteria like thrive in it.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So the article I read said that Edinburgh was one of the most unsanitary towns in Europe.
Oh, it's so pretty though.
It is. It's gorgeous.
Just don't breathe. Close your eyes.
Fucking rough, man. Like, ugh. But okay, so it's not all bad. Edinburgh also became one of the places to be for intellectuals, especially those with vested interests in the sciences, history, economics, medicine, and philosophy.
Let's chop up those bodies. Fast forward to my case.
Damn.
Don't fast forward. I was trying to make a joke and didn't. I was trying.
It happens.
It's I'm so tired. It's not gonna land.
Okay,
I'm
fun
sorry,
fact.
Brie.
The Encyclopedia Britannica was published in Edinburgh in the late 18th century.
Aw.
Edinburgh Castle once had a pet elephant.
I knew about this.
Along with the human waste, shit, that was thrown into Norloch, it also saw its fair share of dead bodies. Like 600 years worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
They showed us the area that used to be water where they drowned the witches.
Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty sad.
Poor witches.
Yeah.
When I was in Belfast, I had an exhibit at one of the museums about the witch trials. And I don't know why, but it hit me. I was in this museum sobbing over these witch women. And I was like, I relate to them. I would have been burned for sure with all of my issues that I had.
Especially with this mouth, man.
Well,
I think all of us would have.
Even little me would have
Yeah,
been because of my health issues and stuff. And I was crying. I saw the shackles and all the different torture devices that they would just use on these women to see. And I was devastated. And I'm just crying in Belfast in this museum because it was so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit was we talk about Salem a lot, but yo, shit was rough in the UK.
It was rough in the UK.
Oof.
Goddamn.
There was a lot of mostly women being flat out institutionally murdered.
Yep.
It was rough. Yikes.
Okay.
Catherine, how are you going to drink your wine?
You know, I haven't made it that far yet.
Get her a straw. Get her a tube.
You guys made fun of the way I ate my mochi, so...
Bitches look like balls.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm having a struggle day.
That's why I got you wine.
Yeah,
You did
but
say you wanted wine.
I did want wine. I'll drink it once Colin brings me my blankie.
Is Colin aware he's supposed to be?
I'll text him.
Okay. I'm gonna move on. The Edinburgh Zoo was the first in the world to keep and breed penguins, and they had a knighted penguin named Sir, I think it's Niles Olaf. Olaf. He's the only...
Are you? That's the cutest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Dead ass serious. He's the only knighted penguin in the world, and he was knighted in 2008, and I fucking love it, guys.
I would have gone to see him tonight.
Like that.
I love it. Isn't there a picture of him walking down?
I think so.
Did they knight him with a little ceremonial sword? They were like, I dub thee, Sir Niles the Penguin. That's so cute. My heart.
I wonder how many other animals have been knighted.
Can we make a children's book that's just
Please?
drawings of all the
God.
animals that have been knighted?
I can sketch it on my iPad. We got this. We're gonna do it.
Yes.
Oh my god. Brought to you by Dark Side Tour Guides.
Copyright.
Dames and sirs of the animal kingdom.
We're going to talk about the unicorns too.
Oh, thank
you
God.
can't fucking talk about Scotland and not talk about the fact that their national animal is the.
I got my mom a really beautiful unicorn Christmas ornament there.
Oh.
Oh really?
Yeah, for Scotland. It's so pretty. And I was like,
I
yes,
think I have my family crest from Scotland, and it has a unicorn on it.
probably.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Scotland.
They love a unicorn.
They do.
And
All right.
Colin.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we can pick that up on the mics.
Hello from the
Thank you.
outside. That was so bad. It was half-assed. There was no air in it. It sounded like a deflating balloon.
You and half my kids.
Oh, honey.
They're
I got
babies.
some new ones, and they're not on board. I had one repeatedly interrupt me today, and I just looked at her. I was like, "Do you realize you're interrupting me every 5 seconds?" And she's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, you're not in quarantine anymore. You can't just talk to yourself." I'm
Sounds
real.
like you may need some help.
Talkspace. Oh wait, they're not a sponsor.
They did not pay us to say that.
No, they didn't.
We didn't.
If
We
you
do
want-
have a sponsor, and we need to get that shit together, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's fine.
You know what else doesn't make you sick, Catherine?
Brigadier Sir Nils Olaf III is King of England,
That's
who
it.
resides in Edinburgh, Scotland. He's the Colonel-in-Chief of the Norwegian King's Guard.
Dude, at one point they also had, I think it was a polar bear, or maybe it was a regular bear. I don't know. I thought it was a polar bear on their fucking, like, it was part of their military or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was a soldier because.
Oh, but he was knighted by the Norwegian army.
Who was?
Nils Olaf III.
Niles?
No, it's a Nils.
Like Nils?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I said Niles, I'm not sure.
Okay.
He was knighted by Norway.
Oh.
His role in the military.
He's so cute. Yeah, okay. It did not specify that Scotland was at the Edinburgh Zoo.
That's not a good
Oh my
sound.
goodness.
No.
Yikes.
That's a cute shirt.
Okay, so Fringe Festival, or the festival Fringe, I've heard it both ways, is the place / thing we have to go for. Oh my god. We have to go to for this episode. That's this episode's thing.
Oh.
That one. Where-
I was invited to take my students to perform.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's too expensive.
Yeah.
How much is it?
So that shit
A
is
lot.
popping though. That shit is fucking popping.
Oh, it's so freaking cool.
We're gonna definitely be those tourists, and I don't care.
I have a friend who's performed there.
Ooh.
It's huge.
Mhm.
It started around the. Am I seeing things?
The ball slid off the box.
Oh, I
What?
thought something went pew across the room.
No.
Talking about hallucinating in Edinburgh.
I know. We are seeing shit tonight.
Yes. Okay.
I need a swirly straw.
I told you to know this strong.
Like a my mouth.
Fringe Festival started around the late 1940s when some Scottish and English theater companies just showed up and staged their own shows, all independently of the other.
Amazing. And they were like, bro, you did, I did, we're a thing.
Yeah. It was like 8 of them, and they're just like, we just showed up and did the damn thing.
I spilled wine.
Of course you did.
Maybe you
Okay.
can just like absorb it.
Originally founded as a monastery in 1128, Holyrood House is Queen Elizabeth II, the British monarch of Scotland's official residence. Alright, so that was the briefest of overviews in terms of Edinburgh, but we only have so much time. I could go on about Mary Queen of Scots, the various battles, skirmishes, etc. with the English in the fight for Scotland, the Bonnie Prince, the Battle of Culloden, okay, yes, technically that's Inverness, but whatever, and the Jacobite rebellions forever. I also know these are not the only topics in Scottish history, but
Messy.
there are a few of the most interesting ones to me, so eat me. Anyway, my point is there's
Winky
so much.
face.
What?
What?
Haggis.
You said eat me and I said winky face.
Yeah.
And I said haggis.
Yeah, I can get a Scottish man.
Oh,
Hmm.
you could be like, "What's you got under that kilt?" And he could be like, "Haven't heard that before." And then he'll be
I'd be
like,
like,
"But you want to
You're
see?"
supposed to show me though. Like that's the bit. Like you're supposed to be pissed and be like, you don't actually want to see, so I'm gonna show you. So fucking show me, damn it.
So one of my favorite memories with my mother-in-law.
Okay.
Not where I was expecting.
No.
We went to Barnes and Noble one time because
What? It keeps getting better. Barnes and Noble from the Scottish Kilt. Okay,
I'm getting there.
I know. That's why it's funny.
Oh yeah. And so we were wandering the little sales aisles, and there was a kilt calendar of
Right.
like men doing kilt yoga.
We get it for my Aunt Connie every year for Christmas.
And so she was like, I really want to know what's under the kilts. And so we went through and looked at every single picture to see if we could see what was under the kilts. And I did this with my mother-in-law. So yeah, we were looking for other men's dicks in the calendar. So
They may not be pretty,
Cheers.
but I do admire a good dick.
Ew. I just
as long as I don't have to look at it.
I don't mind looking because I get to imagine the other things I get to do.
Oh boy.
Your girl perfected the art of phone sex at a very.
I'm literally blushing. Stop. I'm so embarrassed.
You're the one who's embarrassed, and I'm putting this out there because I don't give a single fuck.
Zero shame over here.
Secondhand embarrassment is real.
Nah.
This is staying in the episode. You know how many fucks I don't give? Also, my dad may or may not listen to this, so this is going to be real interesting.
I don't know if my brother still listens to this. If you are, hey Chris.
My mom does. Leslie.
up,
Leslie's
Leslie?
gonna love that shit.
Oh, yeah. So my parents, don't listen, which is fine because I say things that they would probably not be very proud of. But my mom was on a different podcast this week, and I was like, Mother, you've betrayed me.
Yeah, that's rude.
Right?
But it's also a really good thing that she doesn't listen to us.
But,
Just pretend, just follow us. Don't actually listen.
but the podcast she was on, it was their first episode, and I was like, Mom,
The betrayal.
I know, I was so hurt.
Come here.
Okay, let's not.
I didn't talk to her all day. That's how you know it's real.
That's how you know it's real.
Hi, Fajita.
Okay.
Come here.
So, anyway, the point was there's so much shit I want to cover for Edinburgh, and there's not enough time. But as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna cover this again because I say so.
Yeah, there's other haunted shit that I want to cover.
Oh, it's
Yes.
so beautiful. I could literally. So I was gonna make haggis because it's the most Scottish,
I
and I
got
was
it.
also gonna make
It's
shortbread,
good.
and I ran out of time. But haggis has gluten in it a lot of times, but also I have to find a butcher that I can trust in order to make it because I looked into it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because I could make it gluten free. It's mostly oatmeal, but I have to find a butcher that I can trust in the area. Which Dallas has some really good butchers,
Yeah.
so I would just have to do a little bit of footwork for that, and I did not do it. So
Alright, well, until next time with the Edinburgh history, I'll say this. Do your research, plan a trip, and go experience the glory that is Edinburgh and Scotland as a whole. It is gorgeous, the people are so kind, and there is so much amazing history to experience there. You can sense the stories of time hanging heavy in the air, waiting for someone to give them a voice and bring them to life once more.
Aw.
it's
So poetic.
guys.
It makes
it's-
you hella cheesy like that.
No, it's so perfect.
It really is.
It's so perfect.
It's so green and
And my mom loved it, and my mom's not expecting to because it's not. My mom's more tropical beach,
yeah.
kind of or not even tropical, but southern Italy beaches. It's kind of my mom's vibe, you know.
Tuscan.
Yeah, and she absolutely loved it. She's like, "How is it so gorgeous?" And I got fried,
Perfect.
and she's like, "You're the only person I know who can get a sunburn in Edinburgh," because I was fried. But it was because we sat out in the sun, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's lovely. I would move, if I had the opportunity, I would move tomorrow.
Yes.
I'd say, come on, Colin.
Yes.
Grab the cats. Here we go.
Yes.
Nita's kissing my hand.
Nita.
She's a good
Yeah,
girl.
I'm still considering grad school there.
Mm-hmm.
Because, accepted, so why the fuck not? And it's amazing. Anyway,
Yep, there you go. Come on.
and all the cute shops. I went into all the cute shops and the book shops.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so Laura. First off, I won't talk about Nessie this episode because Loch Ness isn't in or near Edinburgh. I took a day trip to get there when I went to Edinburgh.
Yeah,
and
it's
we have
like
to
a
go
drive.
up past Pitlochry into the Highlands, so it's a bit too far away to justify talking about it in this episode.
But it's worth talking about every other occasion.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so not Edinburgh or even really close. It's 3 hours away near Inverness, but I'm going to talk about this anyway because I've made mention of this event multiple times in the history section. The Dead Jacobites of Culloden.
Yes.
So April 16th, 1746, Jacobite Rising came to a bloody head
Mm-hmm.
on the field of Culloden near Inverness. The Scottish fought for independence and were cut down by the British.
Yeah.
If it's by Inverness, we could have talked about Nessie. Just
Okay, Nessie's further away.
No,
than
Inverness is right by. It's Loch Ness. Inverness is next to Loch Ness.
It's slightly further away.
I want to talk about Nessie, but
I'm just
continue.
distracted by your dog licking my thumb.
On another episode, but we only have so much time and there's so much to cover for this. But
Yeah.
I've talked about Culloden multiple times.
That's true. I
So
just
I-
love cryptozoology.
We're going to talk about Nessie at another point. But also, everyone already knows about Nessie. A lot of people don't know about Culloden.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of bogland there. It was like super, it was a shit place to take your last stand. Like, it was rough. It was hard to stand.
It's like
there.
a swamp, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, like bogland. So sometimes nearby people will still see like tartan-clad Scottish soldiers, from the Jacobite Rebellion, wandering the moors, and apparently they mumble the word defeated, which is fucking heartbreaking.
That's really sad.
It's so sad.
Man, that's a bummer.
Every year on the anniversary, people swear that they can hear them fighting. They can hear the clashing of swords, the sounds of the men dying on the battlefield. Like, it's so sad. Learn your history, people. It's so important.
And learn correct history, not whitewash bullshit.
Yes. So, that is the ghost at Culloden. The Mackenzie poltergeist. Also, speaking of Mackenzie and Outlander, I did not know Graham McTavish was, Dwolin?
Oh, yeah.
And The Hobbit?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I never figured that out, but I just recently figured that out, and I was like, wait, what?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mackenzie. So, Greyfriars Kirkyard.
Dougal Mackenzie.
Yeah. At Greyfriars Kirkyard, major spooks, first of all, because J.K. Rowling and Voldemort, like the original, that's where she got the real name.
For sure. I went and searched him out. I found Tom Riddle's grave.
Sure did.
Mm-hmm.
Found it.
And so, one of the most infamous
And just so y'all know, Brie has not had that much of her
No,
day.
I haven't. I was trying to say infamous residence.
We're really tired today, so
it's been a rough week.
I'm just sitting here daydreaming about Scotland. That's probably why my comments aren't really making sense when I'm saying them, because I'm just so in love with Scotland. I'm literally sitting here daydreaming.
Yes.
Ugh.
But so Sir George Mackenzie, he's the worst poltergeist in Greyfriars Kirkyard. During the 17th century, he tortured members of the Scottish Covenanter movement, those opposing King Charles I's reforms in terms of religion, and they were standing by their Presbyterian beliefs. And so he became known as Bloody Mackenzie. So his mausoleum was broken into by, I guess, a homeless man in 1999 trying to find shelter.
Next to the mausoleum.
Yes. And
Me.
after that, there were a shit ton of cases of people going up to his tomb and just getting cuts and bruises mysteriously, or passing the fuck out. And so apparently his spirit lives on. But I would like to note that I'm 99% sure that when I did my tour, we went by fucking Mackenzie's mausoleum, and
it's noticeable for
sure. It is dark and sinister as fuck. We were outside looking through the gate in, and it's just bruh, it's so scary.
Are you talking about the tiered one? The tiered Kirkyard? The big one?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember what it looked like.
I spent a lot of time hanging out in cemeteries.
That's generally what I do.
Yeah, so there's quite a few, but they're stunning.
It was the one with Tom Riddle, that's all I know.
Okay.
It's Greyfriars. I remember the
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
But I don't remember the layout.
Okay.
So Arthur's Seat. So one of its most popular attractions in Edinburgh. It's part of a volcanic rock. And like I said, you hike up to the peak and it overlooks Holyrood Park, the city, the countryside, everything. It's gorgeous.
And you smear the dew.
I did not smear, sadly.
Oh.
I did, I guess, smear my nose. So there are a bunch of myths that go into Arthur's Seat. One of the most popular one is of the sleeping dragon. Apparently, a dragon once circled the skies and would eat anything it saw on the ground below.
Me too.
But then one day he's just I'm gonna take a little nappy nap on the peak, and
Same.
because he got all full and shit, and he never woke up.
Yeah.
And so now
Why am I this dragon?
Yeah.
I relate, buddy. He's
So-
I sleep, and I'm not wake up.
So they say. someday he may awaken.
Bro, if 2020, 2020.
Who has dragons for November?
Oh my god, if a dragon like awakens out of the earth for my birthday, I think I'll be like, it's fine. I can get COVID now. My dreams have come.
This is fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
Everyone would be like, dragons? Really, 2020?
I mean, we've already had
Dragons?
UFOs confirmed by the government. They're,
What?
Dragons are next. Did you not know this in May?
What?
They confirmed UFOs.
Oh, I've been known. I know.
Oh yeah, but like the government confirmed it.
Yeah, well, they're confirming that there are flying objects, not that they're alien.
No, it's just UFOs.
Yeah, of course they are. Half of them are them.
We don't know what this is. It's us.
Winky. It's like, what could it be?
Like side awkward wink of like, I don't really know how to wink, but like we're trying to be sly about it.
Or they have so much plastic surgery that they can't. I've seen X-Files. I know what happens.
Okay, so also Arthur's Seat, there are coffins. Apparently, in the summer of 1836, some schoolboys went into the cave on the northeastern face of Arthur's Seat, and there were 17 tiny coffins under a thin stone slab, and each coffin had a tiny human effigy that was like intricately carved. Their faces were painted on with full
But effigy,
expressions.
not actual corpses?
No, not actual corpses.
Okay.
No, like carvings. Their faces were painted on.
Scotch
They
voodoo.
sewed
Yep.
clothes and shoes together for them.
100% voodoo.
So some of them were already decaying when they were found,
So they're
and
dead.
I guess the coffins must have been created over a period of several years. No one knows who made them or why. Some people say
Ooh.
witchcraft.
Yeah.
Yes!
It is a makeshift commemoration to the victims of Burke and Hare,
Oh.
Morrow's infamously murderous duo.
We'll talk
That will
about them.
come up
Sure
in all of our stories.
Yeah, I told you. I was
Yep.
like, haha.
I'll explain why I think it's so funny, not funny, like darkly funny, that they're the most famous serial killers, because they're really not serial killers in a way that we think of, and I'll explain them later, but it's deaf witchcraft, always.
Always.
But now we talk about unicorns.
Yay.
Oh my god, Scotland is so great. We just talked about witches and dragons
There's about
and
fairies
unicorn.
here, guys.
Oh!
There's a big section on fairies.
Thank God.
Because Scotland. Okay,
Magic
so
is real.
unicorns have been depicted in writing all the way back to ancient Babylonians and Celts. So by the 12th century, it was associated with nobility and power in Scotland. It became the symbol of Scotland's freedom-loving spirit, hauntingly beautiful wild nature.
Oh.
I will cite my source in the blog. I paraphrased, but poorly there. So, on the Royal Coat of Arms for Scotland, it's a unicorn wrapped in gold chains.
A pointy nay.
Also for the United
Pointy nay.
Okay, so an interpretation is that the Scottish kings were like so powerful they could control the strongest beast ever known. But when you look at, you know, the gorgeous, majestic landscape and the tempestuous history,
Yeah.
there's obviously, it's the best animal to fucking represent creature. Not technically an animal. Creature to represent
Close enough.
Scotland and the lands and the people. So they said you can see the unicorn figure at historic sites in Edinburgh, including Holyrood Palace and Edinburgh Castle.
There's some dope ass tapestries.
I love a good tapestry, man.
Sterling Castle has some really cool unicorn tapestries too.
Oh, I'm supposed to be there.
Oh.
Kelpies. I'm supposed to be going to grad school there right now,
Yeah.
but I deferred because of COVID.
Yep, it happens.
Kelpies. So
Aww.
obviously there are those big ass statues now. They're like 30 meters high. In Falkirk, they go along the M9 highway motor.
Oh yeah, they're giant. Yeah,
Yes.
in between Glasgow and Edinburgh.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they are shape-shifting demon horses.
Yes.
And
Scary.
the legend says that they lure unsuspecting prey towards the water by crying out with a sound that sounds like a woman screaming.
Show yourself.
And when the people come to the shore, they lunge and drag them down into the water to their deaths.
Just
They
like
talk about
Elsa.
that in Outlander.
Elsa.
So, and the only way you're supposed to be able to save yourself is to, quote, assert your mastery over it. Sounds so cute.
That is what Elsa did.
This is true.
And then she got a kick-ass musical number.
She froze at the bottom of a mysterious lake and in a last-ditch attempt threw up some snowflakes so that way her sister could save her.
Okay, well, these people will grab the reins and tear the bridle from its back.
Why are people so mean about my love of Frozen 2?
I love Frozen 2 too. Okay. Other lore says that they are shape-shifting, horse-like water spirits with the strength of 100 horses. They can trick you into riding on their back, but if you fall for that, they will, again, carry you to your watery grave.
Mm-hmm.
So, devil's
I'd risk
advents. I'd risk it. So, apparently, the devil sat down with a famous Scottish general. I feel like this is the devil went down to Georgia. And they were playing
Close
a game
enough.
of cards.
Georgia.
I mean, but they're playing a game of cards and, like, it's a game of chance.
Yeah.
Whatever. So, they... Where the fuck did I go?
Fire on the rooftop.
I know, right? Okay, so the devil came to visit him every night for a game, and he usually won, but one night, his name is Tam, apparently, won.
The devil?
General Tam
Oh.
Dalio, he won. He's the founder of the Royal Scots Greys and the head of the Dalio family in the 1600s. Anyway, he pissed off the devil, who threw a marble table at him,
Oh,
which missed.
you know, just
And
a marble table.
Landed in the pond outside. So they obviously dismissed him out of hand, just saying, like, you're full of shit. But 200 years later, the pond dries up, and guess what's there at the bottom of the pond?
Marble table.
Sure was.
Heyo.
Devil went down to Edinburgh.
Through a table.
He threw a marble fucking table.
He said, I like winning.
Okay.
I meant, I've been to several family game nights where someone's thrown a table. So, like, I don't think it's that
I've
far-fetched.
seen your family play games. I can see that happening.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We're a little competitive. It's fine.
My family's a little competitive, and we might have the tradition of playing board games every Christmas.
Nothing says holiday spirit like a big fight with your family.
Nope.
I mean, you're not wrong.
No, that's how it goes.
Yep.
Really is.
Family bonding.
Yeah. Fairies!
Hey, Faye!
Okay, yes, the fair folk. So, they are referred to as fairies or little people. Some lore says you should not call them fairies to their face, call them the fair folk. So they take on a bunch of different shapes, sizes, temperaments,
The wee
forms.
folk.
The wee folk, yeah. So, they can be really awful, or they can be nice.
Just
But
gotta freaking change your baby out. It's
yeah,
fine.
Change
you
it.
don't want to piss them off.
No.
So, if you were kind to the city fairies, they might grant you good luck.
Oh.
Don't go to the dark woods at night. You might be punished by Gilly Jew,
Or
the dark-haired lad.
Mm.
Yes, and
I like
he
a
gets pissed
redneck
off if
lad.
you encroach. You. I also like me a ginge, though. I really like a ginge. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about Gilly Jew a lot, though, because the forest that he was mentioning is, like, a little bit further away. But maybe next time. So, another source had more to say about the fair folk. They're very important in Scottish folklore, like, majorly. So, every different body of water, every well, every lock, everything had a name, and there was an ancient fairy that would stand guard and protect it.
Every creature has a
They're
name.
important in rituals, could be responsible for failing crops, when someone pisses them off again. And they like to study human nature, which is terrifying.
I
Yeah.
meant me too.
I mean, yes, but
You can make a career out of it nowadays.
This is true.
Yeah.
So, first rule, never let a fairy overhear you calling a fairy. Like I said, they don't like it.
I'm sorry, the Fae.
Don't be rude to them. They can do a lot of bad shit to you.
Yep.
So always be honest with them, even though they may bend the truth so far. Allegedly, fairies can't tell lies, but they bend the truth so far, it's damn near a lie. It is a lie. So, but you have to always be honest with them, because they'll know if you lie, and again, pissed off, bad things happen.
Yeah.
Don't wear
Just
the
like
color
moms.
green, because they think it's their color.
I'm
And-
sorry. It looks good with my hair, Faye.
Right? But yeah, not all of them are awful.
Can I name my child Faye?
I like
Faye.
it.
Yeah. I was gonna say my last name, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a real name.
It is. Mm-hmm.
For
I'm
sure.
down.
Like Golden Age of Hollywood name.
I wonder if Zach would be down for it.
I am.
I am.
That's all that matters.
Yep.
So the Black Angus fairies are known as the fairy dogs, and the ashrays are
Aw.
water dwellers. Not all of them can take on human form. There's the boobry,
Boobry.
The blueberry came to my house and hit me twice.
who are water birds.
Oh, I feel bad.
They live on land and in water. The fin folk can live in bodies of water. They can also be called sea gardeners, and they won't
Oh
make
god, that's charming.
any human contact. Yes.
Me neither.
So then there's the Bukiling, brownies, gnomes, the Brugak,
My favorite.
yes, heather pixies,
Mm.
Sealy quartz. So there's the Sealy and the unsealy,
Uh-huh.
and so don't just say Sealy good, unsealy bad. No, that's dumb. But anyway, pixies. So there's a shit ton of fairies. They come in very different shapes, sizes, and forms.
Pesky, pescamoni.
They're mischievous, they can be friendly, they can be shy. So the ones who are less nice are the Kelpies, Gillydew, the this is funny. The Fackins. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's how I'm saying it. And
That's
the
amazing.
Knucklelevies.
The what?
So shut the fuck up. So they hate humans. And
Most
it's
humans
not
hate
gonna end
humans.
well, you're right.
Yeah.
So they like to play games with humans and lure you in with their pretty faces. Oh, Legolas, but he nice. Anyway, and
I tried to keep with a straight face.
every single day.
I couldn't help it.
what?
Just you.
What do your elf eyes see?
Okay. So they're very private. You don't want to invade their privacy or their personal space. Like same though.
Especially during COVID.
Ugh. They sometimes when they get pissed off, they'll bring illness, take away your sight, destroy your crops. But if you respect them and you don't piss them off, which it sounds like it's kind of easy to do, so you should be safe.
Mm-hmm.
But do your fairy research first, just to be safe.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm almost done. This is technically Glasgow, but it's only about an hour away, and this one seemed fitting for Halloween. Jenny Wade the Iron Teeth. South of the city in Gorbals, the Glasgow necropolis. Oh, you were looking at me like I was about to fuck something up. Okay.
No.
There are
Your dog
approximately
is just like wiggling in my lap.
50,000 of ghosties.
Ghosties.
That's
Yep.
a lot of ghosties.
It's
I
a lot of
know,
ghosties.
on the hilltop there.
Yep.
So, in September of 1954, someone disturbed it. Policemen had responded to reports of hundreds of children descending upon the cemetery. The local children said that they were just trying to
Oh,
get
hocus
revenge
pocus.
for two boys who had been eaten by the Gorbals vampire. But some
Oh.
locals said they thought they'd actually seen Jenny with the Iron Teeth, a demonic hag. I guess she used to roam Glasgow Green in the 1800s, and she would drag children down into her lair with her metal jaws. Okay, so I don't have time to talk about it here because I've already been going on for ages.
So it's either a hag or a vampire and a bunch of little kids attacked
Yes.
the graveyard? That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I want a movie.
Yep.
Like Goonies style, only
Right?
it's a horror movie.
Okay, I'm wrapping up. Okay, so check out a couple of links that I'm going to include in the blog for some ebooks. The website is fucking awesome. Like, seriously, someone's design and marketing degree is getting put to good use. Like, I wish I had those skills. But check out the mysterious underworld of Edinburgh.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
It's amazing. Okay.
Awesome. So, since everything just relates to everything in Edinburgh, apparently, we're going to talk about the vaults. As we know, we love a good underground, and Edinburgh has the secret passageways called the South Bridge Vaults.
Amazing.
And obviously it has a haunted history. I do have a picture. If y'all want to see it, I'm going to send it to y'all so y'all can see it. And I don't have to get up because Nita is in my lap.
My spoiled ass dog.
Abso-fucking-lutely. The picture will be on the blog. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Bree.
Yep. Let me find my pen.
It's in my notes. Not your pen, but the...
Like, look at those, Carrie. Only for
I mean, it's where I have my links, so...
Yeah, I literally look for the links and that's it.
Maybe I'll
Like,
just
research done, I'm dipping.
I'll just embed all of the links into this photo. Anyway, so Edinburgh has... I'm surprised you didn't talk about this. Similar history to many other European cities. It was built up around the castle, and the villagers wanted to live as close as possible to the castle for protection. They began building bridges to connect the castle to the land outside of the fortification. So there was a north bridge and a south bridge. The south bridge was the second to be built, beginning its construction in 1785, completing it in 1788. So it was only being built for 3 years.
It's pretty efficient.
It was rushed and not very well done. And so they ended up not sealing it well. And as you can probably imagine, a bridge not sealed well, there are problems. Because,
Bridge collapse.
no, just flooding.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times that's what you see.
There's a lot of potential problems with not building a bridge well. Anyway, there were 120 vaults or rooms housed in 19 archways that spanned over 1,000 feet wide and stood 31 feet at its highest and went down as far as 22 feet into the bedrock. It stretched north to south from Blair Street to Niddry Street. On the Niddry Street side, it's quite noisy due to it being just under the bridge, so it's really close to population. But on the Blair Street side, it's about 3 levels below ground, so it's eerily quiet. The rooms are very significantly in size. They can range from 21 square feet to over 400 square feet. And this site was literally doomed to be haunted from the start. So...
It's Edinburgh, of course it was.
Oh yeah, like it's haunted.
Everything.
It's under Edinburgh.
Right,
Like,
it's under Edinburgh.
Extra
Even.
haunted.
Yeah. So just before the bridge opened for public use, Edinburgh's oldest resident, a well-known and highly respected judge's wife, was bestowed the honor of being the first person across the South Bridge. Unfortunately, she never had the chance because she died days before the opening, but they were determined to have her cross first.
It's a little funny.
Yeah. But they were literally so determined to have her be the first one across this bridge that they...
Did they weekend up burning her?
No, they carried her coffin across the bridge. Yeah, so first person across is a dead person. Good job. You've sealed in your fate as being fucking haunted. Yeah.
I'm just imagining like this well-to-do old lady weekend at Bernie style with like sunglasses, and they're like dragging her across the bridge.
Yeah.
They're like, she's fine. She loves this bridge.
She loves this bridge.
She's the first one to cross it. Look how happy she is.
She's like,
She was so excited it killed her. Anyway, so obviously the locals were extremely superstitious regarding this, and they refused to cross the South Bridge. Like, they would go out of their way to not cross the South Bridge.
And let me tell you, Scottish people,
Stubborn as fuck.
yes, and fucking superstitious, man.
However, the business-minded folks decided that this wasn't an issue, and the vaults were opened. So the business-minded folks of Edinburgh decided that, you know, superstition and haunting weren't an issue for them. And when the vaults opened, a flood of businesses like merchants, taverns, cobblers, butchers, and wine merchants, there's a wine vault later,
oh my god.
and other tradesmen began having their businesses open there. But they became a bustling part of the city. As I will probably say ad nauseum through the multiple chinks in time, the conditions down there were bad. It was dark, there was no airflow, and this was definitely not an ideal workstation for these businesses. Below the hustle and bustle of the businesses were living quarters. These living quarters were a physical representation of the hierarchy, just like you said earlier. The lower you lived, the lower your status. Because the conditions got worse the further you went down.
Yeah, always do.
Yeah. There was a quote from one of my resources that said, "This is where people came to die, not live."
Yep.
Woof.
Yeah.
Yeah, but remember how I said that the bridge was not sealed well? Well, it would wash contaminated water, human waste, blood, and other disease carriers from the main city down to these living quarters, and
Ew.
citizens began falling ill with things like cholera.
Yeah, and then they poop more.
Yep.
It's a vicious cycle.
Cholera's rough.
Yes,
man.
it is.
Yep.
Like dysentery.
Oh, yeah. So there was a really good quote from the Edinburgh Evening Current from the 1st of July, 1815. On the 24th, Instructor Mr. Mackenzie, supervisor, accompanied by Miss Gorey and McNaughton officers, discovered a private distillery of considerable extent under the arch of the South Bridge, which had been working these past 18 months, to the great injury of the revenue. The particulars of the seizure are worthy of notice, from the great pains which had been taken to prevent disclosure. The original door to the place where the operations were going forward had been carefully built up and plastered over so as to prevent any appearance of an entrance. Behind a grate in the fireplace of a bedroom, an opening had been made and fitted with an iron door and lock exactly fitting the grate, which could only be seen by being removed, and this passage led to the flat above or a trap door and ladder where this was still working. This place, again, was in one of the deaf arcs, immediately adjoining the middle arc of the bridge, now the caves venue, which we'll talk about later. And the person had found means to convey a pipe from one of the town's branches, which gave a plentiful supply of water. A soil pipe was also got at, and a hole broke through into a neighboring vent to carry off the smoke. Besides the still, a considerable quantity of the wash and somehow low wines were found in the premises. Also many casks, mash tun, large tubs, etc. The spirits were said to have been conveyed in a tin case made to contain 2 or 3 gallons, which was again put in a green bag and carried out by a woman under her cloak. So, like, business operations.
So, bootlegging.
We'll get there. So this was in 1815.
Was alcohol legal?
No.
There's tax on it?
No. So it's believed that in about 1795, it kind of started going to shit. So this was only like 7 years after it opened, but this was just one of the businesses. And so I'm assuming that this wasn't a licensed business or an approved business. But,
Or do you think people would just try and, like, steal it, maybe? Because it was, like, worth a lot?
no, I think that mainly what I got this at was describing the extent that they had to go to be able to make it. Like, they had to create different chambers and, like, break down pipes to try to get smoke out, and like, it was intense. And so that was start of the sort of decline. So in the 1820s, about 30 years after it opened, the vaults completely flooded and the reputable businesses had to evacuate. So this left vacancies for essentially the red light district. Once the business-driven underground now turned to brothels, illegal pubs, gambling rings, crime, including robbery, illegal whiskey distilling, which was already there, as was said in previous paragraph, and murder.
That's messed up.
Yep, that's it. Poor families would seek shelter here, despite having no running water, no light, and very poor sanitation. Common theme. It's believed that as many as 10 people were crammed into these small vaults to seek shelter during the Irish potato famine as they fled to Scotland between 1845 and 1847. During this time, disease ran rampant. It's believed that it was abandoned by the poor folk in 1860s due to the extremely poor condition. So, like, it was so bad that even the homeless people...
Even the homeless couldn't. Yeah.
So, in 1985, there was an excavation of the vaults where they found middens, or, like, big piles of trash, of toys, horseshoes, medicine bottles, buttons, clay pots, plates, and other objects, just proving that people actually used to live down there and, like, it could sustain life.
Just like household stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like household things. And so...
I know.
Yeah.
Which would be super interesting, but also really sad and kind of gross and scary
Oh, yeah.
to find. Kind of want to experience the underground house for about 2 seconds just to be like, ooh, interesting.
Well, they've fixed up parts of it now.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. And so an interesting story that I found on one site, I think like there was another site that referenced it, but I couldn't find, what's the word I'm looking for? Legit sources?
Reputable.
There we go. So legit. So former Scottish rugby internationalist Norrie Rowan discovered the vaults in the 1980s and ended up using them.
Hot name,
right? Norrie Rowan.
He sounds hot.
But he ended up helping them. Wow, using them to help Romanian rugby player Christian Raducanu. Sure. Rubik's Cube. Escaped the Romanian secret police leading up to the Romanian Revolution of 1989. Yeah.
Oh, this shit got good.
Right?
Gosh, this
So
guy's a babe.
Rowan, it gets better. Rowan went back with his son, Norman Rowan, to excavate the vaults in the 1990s, where they found rubble and oyster shells, which were a staple of the working class diet.
Yeah, now it's funny. I actually, when I did one of my archaeology classes, it talked about how, like, oysters used to be, like, poor people food, and now it's rich people food, and it's really interesting.
It's because we polluted the water supply, and now finding good quality oysters are really rare, and therefore makes them expensive.
Did you know you had to fuck up big?
If
pollute
oysters,
the water supply enough to do all that? Because, like, they literally put their shit in the water back then, yo.
Right.
Like...
And we fucked it up worse.
No, like, damn.
Well, that's because shit eventually goes back into the earth.
Right.
Plastic and chemicals do not.
No. So, obviously, since I'm talking about it, there are some ghosts who reside here.
You don't say.
You know, ghosts.
Spooks.
Edinburgh, it happens. Some credit.
Wisps.
Wee wisps.
I didn't even mention the will-o'-the-wisp. Every other episode I do. But...
I know. So, some accredit the cold blast of air that they feel when they walk down into the vaults to the ghosts, but quite frankly, it's probably just the fact that they're going underground and it's colder underground.
It
So,
happens like that.
It's
yeah,
both.
just saying. Oh no, there's
Porque
plenty.
no dos.
Because there's plenty of other evidence for ghosts other than just going underground. Like, if I could go into a cheese cave, it's gonna blast me with cold air because it's a
Oh my
fucking
god.
cheese
What
cave.
if there's a ghost in a cheese cave?
A hunger ghost?
Living the fucking high life, man.
Oh man.
That's not to discredit the cold spots that people claim to feel down there, because there have been reports of extreme temperature drops within the depths of the vaults. And then,
Which
of course,
should be consistent.
right. And of course, disembodied voices or children crying.
No.
And,
You lost me at the children crying.
and footsteps. Others have claimed seeing anything from weird mists to full apparitions of figures in
mists.
robes.
Secret society!
I'm always in a robe. Maybe it's me.
And they always could have been seeing one of our beloved ghosts without knowing who they were seeing. We'll get to them in a hot second. A specific encounter happened in 2009 when Joe Swash was
freshie.
recording... Say freshie.
We got a fresh one.
That's a recent story.
2009? It's 11 years ago.
But for Edinburgh, that's like a
Recent in the 1700s.
Yeah, that's like a.
I was talking about the 90s earlier.
That's a long time ago, because
You're
that's when
talking
I was
about the
born,
ghost
and I'm old now.
Anyway, in 2009, Joe Swash was recording a BBC television special and caught unexplained voices echoing through the vaults in the recordings. Swash was the only person down there and says that he did not hear the voices until he heard the playback.
Ooh, I bet you the hair raised on the back of his arm.
It wasn't one instance either. It continued for 20 minutes
Damn!
and came to an abrupt halt when the
You
reading
pulled
is
this
hard.
video for us to watch, right? Or listen
There
to?
is a...
On the bubbock.
Got it on the book.
I think it's in my links.
Okay.
If not, I can find it. Let me restart that because words are really hard.
They are indeed.
Spooky.
What?
I always say it every episode, so I figured that would be a good time.
Of all times!
Okay.
I was just filling in the silence. I was giving her some
Okay.
time.
That's fine. So it wasn't just the one instance. It was going for 20 minutes and came to an abrupt halt with the exclamation point of children yelling.
No.
Initially, the sound engineers thought it was local nightclubs or other radio signals that were just too weak to hear.
It's just like It's just like random techno music, EDM.
With children screaming at the end.
Oh my god, that would be a fun haunted house. Children screaming over EDM music. Everyone would be so annoyed. It would be fun.
However, both of those theories were found to be incorrect. So,
No shit.
yeah, so ghosts.
Kids in this nightclub?
Oh, sorry, Nita.
What?
We just watched a Bob's Burgers where they go to the nightclub because their babysitter's hot cousin was there and they got stuck in his ice cream truck in the ice.
The fuck?
Bob's
That
Burgers.
show is clever.
It is.
Have you watched that show?
No.
You should watch it just for the puns. So his like burgers are always puns.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do love a good pun.
And the opening credits, the store next to them changes all the time. And they're always puns. Like you would enjoy that part of it.
Well, they always have like really good musical numbers. Like
Yes.
quality musical numbers.
And Linda literally is my mom, and I'm
True.
and I'm literally Tina. Grace is literally Louise, and Annie's pretty much Jean.
Yeah.
It's an accurate representation. My dad's not really Bob, except for the whole like exasperation at his family bit.
Well, speaking of Annie, we have little abandoned Annie.
Oh, good. I didn't cover it. That's good.
Yeah. So you actually had some different notes than me.
I deleted. Oh, no. That's
No,
my
I still have
personal
it.
note I deleted. Not
Yeah.
on the drive. Go ahead, because I didn't cover it. Feel free.
No, it's fine. So abandoned Annie is the ghost of a little girl who was obviously abandoned by her mother down in the vaults because she started showing signs of illness. And so she just wants to hold your hand.
No.
Like my dog right now.
I know, she is like trying to get up into my lap. Do you want it in my lap, baby?
She's like putting her paw up there, like
Come here.
Here.
I just
Here.
want hold me. And now she's perfectly happy sitting on my foot.
I heard her like
flops.
little
Yeah.
squeal she just made.
She's like, oh yes.
Her little sigh of intent.
Yeah.
That was
Her foot is like fully on my foot. That's cute. So she just wants to hold your hand like Nita's holding my foot right now.
Aw.
Down in the vaults, there's an altar to Annie where people will leave dolls, toys, and money. They will collect up the money and donate it to help sick children. And it's super duper sweet. So if you happen to be in Edinburgh and can go down to the abandoned Annie little shrine area, leave some money.
So next time we're there, we're going.
Yes. Next up, we have Jack. So Jack is a blonde, curly-haired boy, believed to be about 6 or 7. He's seen wearing a blue suit with knickerbocker trousers.
No.
He's a cute little boy.
Biffy.
He's so cute.
Just
He's
a baby.
primarily seen by women and children. And he likes to hold your hand and tug on your clothes in the wine vault.
Oh,
Jack,
This little connoisseur.
if you're not a demon possessing or posing as a child, I'll let you hold my hand in the wine vault because that means I'm in a wine vault. There's an apparition called the Aristocrat, not Aristocat. Like I initially read it and I was like, Aristocat? Oh,
I
wait.
still say
this isn't
aristocrat
Disney.
instead of aristocrat all the time.
Sign of our age.
Yeah, I had to like distinguish that in my notes because otherwise I would have just been like the Aristocat, and he's seeing a tall black hat and a beard, and I was like, wait, cats don't have beards.
Edgar.
What is it?
Creme de la Edgar.
There we go. Anyway, so the Aristocrat is tall, or has a tall black hat and wears a beard. He is seen leaning against the wall and smiles at visitors. While this seems friendly enough, and he's never actually done anything malicious to visitors, they do report feeling a sinister presence when he's around.
Oh,
so
he's
it's
just
the top
fishy.
hat.
He's sus.
It's the top
I-
hat and the beard.
I learned how to play Among Us, so I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that ghost is sus.
Why was it me 3 times in a row? Why was I the imposter?
Bree, they really
3
wanted you to kill us.
Fucking times. I killed you.
Yeah. You shot me. And my little witch hat was like, no.
Oh. So another unknown.
Said it was Catherine.
I said, I'm dead.
Another unknown named man is the cobbler. So he is a short, stocky man,
Is he tasty?
seen wearing an apron. But he's a positive presence and likes to smile at visitors as well.
Of course, he's a cobbler.
Yes.
Cobbler always makes you happy.
Yeah, so
I
he's
love
just nice.
Cobbler.
He makes shoes.
Not cobbler, shoes.
I know.
Okay.
I was making a joke about
Shoes make me happy too.
This is true.
I think your dog knows the word shoe because she just started licking my foot.
She likes shoes too, like her mama.
No, she actually has snow boots and she fucking hates them.
Oh, I've seen the video.
Cartoons of a spider and roller
She's like
skates.
dirt, 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 dirt.
Great.
We had to put little booties on my dog Bandit before we had to put him down because he got old. I know.
His little toes got cold.
No, he would. So he was a Blue Heeler Border Collie mix, and like he lived to work for us, and like he was so wickedly smart. Oh my gosh! Like,
Yeah, that's a smart mix.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so we would be pulling out the water hose, and he would just like bite, grab, and pull it with us, and we're like, "What a smart dog!" But also, we were at the new house, and we were trying to pull the water hose out, and I was like, "Where's Bandit when you need him?" I was like, "Oh, he's been dead 8 years." Sorry, that went dark. Anyway. We had to get little booties for him in the summer because he would run the length of our pool so much trying to herd us because they're both herding
We
breeds.
used to do that. Our Sheltie used to do that in the pool. She'd hurt us.
But he would literally go until his paws bled, and even as they were bleeding, he would like be yelping. But the instinct was so strong to herd that he would not stop, and like there would be a blood trail around the pool. And we're like, maybe no, and we would have to get little booties for him, and he would wear through them in about a month. Like the leather bottom, yeah, whole 9 yards. He was such a good boy. Oh, he had little spots over both of his eyes, which is where we got Bandit because he looked like a little mask. He was a good boy. His brother Bo was adopted by my grandparents. He was a turd. He liked to escape. He would always come back for me, but he was a turd. Anyway, so our most common ghost is Mr. Boots, aka the Watcher.
Mr. Boots.
Oh, Mr. Boots is aggressive.
Oh, that's a cute name for an aggressive ghost.
That's because he earned his name from the heavy boots he wears, and those are the heavy footsteps that you will hear.
Is it Colin?
He is not Colin.
Colin walks. You probably heard him on this recording when he brought me my blankie.
Yes.
Clomp, clomp, clomp.
No, Mr. Boots is a tall, unkempt man who likes to stay toward the back section of the vault. He is a very menacing ghost who is believed to be the spirit of a man who murdered a woman and kept her body with him as he lived in the vaults.
Gross.
So, not Colin.
No, Colin's afraid of the dark.
Yeah. Yeah, but he earned his name because you can hear him walking behind you. And if you try to go back to where he lived or where the body of the woman is, he will throw rocks at you.
And I'm gonna sing, these boots are made for walking.
For rockin'.
Yep.
Well done.
But he has been photographed.
Spooky.
So you can see him most notably in Emma Sergnor's picture of her sister Lauren in 2015. Like, this photo made news.
I would
Hershey.
shit a fucking brick. They'd be like, yo, look at this dead dude behind you.
I've seen it. Like, this photo is legit. It's scary. So speaking of 2015, the vaults themselves closed in 2015 and remain closed to the public except in specific instances. The area is very strictly monitored to reduce the possibility of someone trying to sneak in like we would. Not gonna, put that out there. Occasionally it is used for ghost tours. There are some venues down there. There are the caves and the Rowan Tree that will host private events, weddings, private dining, live music, and the occasional club night.
That's incredible.
Guys, so if I ever get married,
Yes.
Yes, please!
I'll add it to your Pinterest board.
Yes.
I
So,
already have Bree's wedding plan, so.
since
Yeah.
freshman year in college, and I'm probably never getting married, so.
It
It's a
happens.
perfect Pinterest board. You're welcome.
Okay, but what are the colors?
I have 2 different color schemes depending on what season she wants.
Always fall. Always fall.
But in
If
Edinburgh,
I'm not getting married in Edinburgh, then I'm getting married in a forest with trees that look like fire.
So can we...
Well, have you seen my Little Red Riding Hood cape that I have pinned?
You haven't shared your board with me, Catherine?
Are you serious?
So I'm thinking like
Hilarious.
burgundy and forest green.
See? She knows.
Okay.
Well, I'll share the Pinterest board.
Okay. Anyway, so the caves sits on the site of the former Adams Square that was there before the South Bridge was built, and discovered the original terracotta floor tiles, hearthstone, and what remains of the fireplace while they were renovating the venue.
I love that shit.
They also discovered a new room.
Oh, yes!
Yeah.
I love secret rooms!
Me too.
Yes. So the venues participate in the Edinburgh Festival Fringe that happens in August, where they can host up to 60 shows a day. Mm-hmm. As a way to segue to Catherine, first off Fringe, but also it's believed to be the site of the infamous William Burke and William Hare body snatchers.
Nice. They're all over the place, man.
Yes, they are.
They are. And we're going to talk about them.
Yes, we are. Because they came up in all of our research.
Yeah, they're like it's very interesting how, so they are definitely financially motivated.
Oh, 100%.
And I think it's really interesting because they're a partner, well, there's technically 4 people involved.
Right.
I would wager 5 because that doctor had to have known something was up.
Absolutely.
So there's pretty much 5 people involved. It is completely monetary, and I think it's really interesting. So Burke and Hare, they are the murderers, not the victims, because we always talk about the murderers first. They committed 16 murders over a period of 10 months in 1828 in Edinburgh. They were both named William. Very Scottish for them, so we're just going to call them Burke and Hare because they're both Williams. And they would sell corpses to Robert Knox, and he was an anatomy lecturer, and so he needed the corpses for dissection, for skeletons, to show his students how things were done. This is at a prime time. We also talked about H.H. Holmes, who also pulled some of this shit. Same reasons, financial gain, only he was much more sickadoo than these guys, I feel like, because these guys were just super, super, super selfish and greedy, and that caused them to be murderers. I think H.H. Holmes was a murderer who found ways to fuel his murder. Yep. So, Edinburgh is really famous for its anatomy studies, and there was a shortage of bodies. Well, a shortage of legal bodies. So, Scottish law required corpses for medical research only come from people who died from prison, suicide victims, or from foundlings and orphans. So basically, Scottish law was like, only if no one wants these people.
Exactly.
Which is kind of horrible, and that's really sad. And so there were corpses that were quote unquote tainted in some way that it would be fine to cut them open because essentially no one cared. They weren't getting into heaven anyways. Which is really, really sad. So, homeless people whose bodies were found, people who died in prison, people who were executed, things like that. And suicide was considered a crime, so also suicide victims. So, body snatching became really popular. There was a trend in this time period because people started realizing, religious ceremonies have always been really important, but they started realizing, the health and safety for the public about burying bodies and keeping them separate. And so it was much harder to get corpses, and the only way, they didn't have x-rays, they didn't have anything. The only way they could learn about the human body was to cut it open and see what's inside. Which I think, if it's a dead body, and that person's chill with it, if it's not a religious thing, freaking go for it, man.
I'm a donor.
So,
that's incredible. And you can really do a lot of, to me, once I'm dead, whatever. So, I don't know, I think it's a really interesting thing, but they realized that they had a shortage of bodies, and they didn't have refrigeration. They didn't have formaldehyde. They couldn't preserve bodies the way that we do now. It's not like they could be in a morgue drawer for a couple of weeks and not start to decay. Right. So, they literally would run out of bodies, and so body snatching became a very lucrative trade because you could get a lot of money. These guys get up to 10 pounds, which in the 1820s
that's a lot.
in Edinburgh is a huge amount of money. Huge amount of money. So, they made bank on these corpses. So, how it happens. Basically, it's the day after my birthday, always. Okay, so it's always November 29th. So, Hare had a boarding house. And this is really important because it's where they murdered most of their victims, and it's where the evil plan was hatched. So
the H.H. Holmes, that bitch?
Yes, literally. And so Hare had a tenant of his boarding house, he and his wife, die on November 29th from dropsy, which is swelling. Yeah. And he had not paid for his rent because he was waiting for his army pension. Okay? So he was 4 pounds in debt, which again, that's a lot of money. And so Hare was like really upset, and he's complaining to his friend Burke. And Burke, Hare, and both their wives were like a close-knit group. And he's like, well, I lost all this money because the guy freaking decided to die on me. And they're like, you know what? Why don't we get your money back? And so they took his corpse to Dr. Knox, and they sold it to him. But they pretended to bury him. The local church was like, oh, we have to bury this guy. He was like a veteran, blah, blah, blah. And so they literally took his corpse out of the coffin and filled the coffin with like bits of sticks and stuff. And like pieces of leather and like just scraps. I put it in there, resealed it. They put it to burial, and they brought the corpse to Edinburgh University, which is one of the oldest universities in the world, and it's incredible. And
it's one of the best too.
yes, and he was like, oh, we'll take him to this Dr. Knox. He's on Surgeon Square, which is like a whole area because, like we mentioned before, science was booming.
Yep.
And he looked at the body. He was like, oh, okay, here, 7 pounds, 10 cents. And so Hare got $4.50, and Burke took the rest. And he's like, oh, yay, my rent's covered, and we made a profit. And the light bulb went off, and they said, you know what? We could do this.
Your dog is looking.
Unfortunately, we just gotta wait for them to die. And so instead of waiting for them to die, they decided they were just gonna murder people.
They accelerate the process.
They do. So basically, their whole bit was that they would wait for people to come in, and they would use a method that's literally called burking now. And so, Burke would sit on their chest and like restrain them and apply pressure on their chest, and then Hare would cover up their nose and mouth. And so they couldn't expand their lungs to get any air, and so they suffocated very quickly, and it didn't leave a trace.
I was about to say, so like one of the most difficult, not one of the most, but like a difficult method to kill someone, but then I thought about it like, yeah, they can't leave a trace behind because they're trying to sell these bodies for profit to,
Yep. And so it didn't leave, and so they just kept making up stories. Like, oh, this person drunk himself to death on the street, and blah, 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 blah. And the doctor had to have been catching on, but he was like, okay, that's nice. And so they kept receiving money for the bodies. They did old people, young people. Basically, they found high-risk victims who people wouldn't miss them.
Yeah.
They did one young person and his grandmother, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm kind of going quickly because we've been recording a long time. So he kept murdering his lodgers. He kept lying about where they were from. What really kind of threw them off is that there was a man named James Wilson, and people called him Daft Jamie. And he was daft.
Oh, daft.
He was mentally and physically handicapped. And he was a beggar, and he was known in the area as like a harmless, disabled man who lived on the streets. Everyone knew him. People like gave him coins and made sure he was like okay, right? He was like kind of the butt of a joke, but like people looked out for him. And they brought his corpse in, and how they would lure in people is that they'd offer them whiskey, they'd get them drunk, and then they'd kill them. And so they did that with him.
I'm killing y'all.
They brought him in, and the doctor's like, isn't this Jamie? Like, so people recognized him.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of the end. Because people recognized him, and they were like, oh, he's just some drunk homeless guy. No one's going to care. And people did figure him out. And he was only 18. Yeah,
baby.
So Daft Jamie was a baby. So, the last victim they killed was on Halloween.
Ooh.
Her name was Margaret Daugherty, and she was a middle-aged Irish woman who was coming down and staying there. So he got her into the lodge, said his mother was also a Daugherty from the same part of Ireland. So he's like, oh, wow, they could be related, ha, ha, ha. And he basically kept giving her more and more and more whiskey. So there was 2 other people staying there, Anne and James Gray, and they were like, oh, here, take this money, go stay at Hare's house for the night. Hare's going to come here to do the murder, okay? And so the couple's like, okay, this is weird, but sure, if you want to do this. And so they stayed there. Hare came. They murdered her. The wives were there. Everyone knows, okay? Murders happen.
Mm-hmm.
Margaret is dead. In the evening, all 4 wives, Burke and Hare, are all drinking. There's a corpse. The Greys returned to get some clothing for their kids and saw Burke, Hare, and their wives and Margaret all drunk, singing, dancing. Burke and Hare got into a fist fight, and then they murdered her, put her body in a pile of straw at the end of the bed. Mm-hmm. So the Greys returned the next morning, and Anne is like, Burke, why won't you let me go in the bed? I left my stockings on there. I was staying here. And he was being really, really sus. And so the Greys kind of look around the house, and they're like, what's going on? And they find Margaret's body, blood and saliva all over her face, because, they suffocated her.
Yeah.
And they went to the police, and
Obviously.
McDougal, who's one of the wives, one of the spouses, tried to bribe them with 10 pounds a week to not go to the police.
Damn.
And they refused.
Damn.
Yeah, and this is a young family, and they refused. They went to the police. They found Margaret's body, her bloodstained clothing hidden under the bed. Burke and his wife gave different times for Margaret's departure, raised suspicion. They took him in for questioning. They went to Knox dissecting rooms, and they found her body in there, right? So they have her body, they have her bloody clothes, they have the weird story. James Gray identified her as the woman he'd see with Burke and Hare. Hare and his wife were arrested the day, as well as Burke's wife. So all 4 of them are arrested. 16 people were murdered. And basically, they would just get, shit-faced drunk with the victim and then kill them in their way. Mm-hmm. They both became severe alcoholics, which proves to me that they were doing this for greed and not because they liked killing people.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. And so, basically, they go on trial. The wives, everything, and everyone's pointing fingers at each other.
Of course they are.
Uh-huh. So, forensic specialists examined Margaret's body, which is kind of cool that they had those, and they reported as probable the victim had been murdered by suffocation, but it could not be medically proven, and 2 different doctors came to that conclusion, and that is when they were charged with murder, even though they couldn't medically prove it, and that's because of the Burking, what they did, because their lungs couldn't expand, so you couldn't find trauma to your lungs. Which is still, a thing that happens today. It's still, a way that you can murder someone.
Not a helpful tip.
Not a helpful tip.
Don't use that to murder people. That's just a fun fact.
Plus,
That's not really fun.
If it's 2 of you, one of you is going to squeal, what happens here, and you will get your comeuppance.
You don't get that.
Mm-hmm. A bunch of people then came forward and suspected of other murders, so they didn't have any of the bodies because the bodies had been dissected and used, and so came out in the newspapers, and the newspapers went wild saying all these crazy things happened, and the public went crazy, and they went forward with any information that they could have had about people who were missing, and they were able to tie clothing that they had to a lot of the victims, and that's how they found out all the victims, and then eventually they were able to talk to the doctor and get. So Hare was chosen, and he was offered immunity if he turned to, this is King's evidence, so if he turned and went to stateside and provided the details of the murder of Margaret, and if he would come forward with any of the other ones, because he could not be brought to testify against his wife, she was exempt from prosecution, right? So the wives knew about it, but they weren't actively committing the murders. So Hare made a full confession of all the deaths, and they decided that was sufficient evidence to secure prosecution. So December 4th, formal charges were laid against Burke and McDougal, which is him and his partner, for the murders of Mary Patterson, James Wilsons, and Margaret Dockery. So only 3, technically. Knox didn't face any murder charges because he turned witness, and his statement exonerated the surgeon, so basically they're like, we tricked him, even though he had to have been suspicious. So newspapers still releasing further details, and it started to become clear that everyone was really annoyed with the doctor, and many in Edinburgh thought that he was the ringmaster who got him in to do what they were supposed to do, right? So a lot of people thought that the doctor was suspicious at the time, and it's not just us now. So Christmas Eve in 1828 was when the trial started, which is like a terrible day to have a trial.
Right. Merry fucking Christmas.
Yeah. So the court was full almost right away. It was a huge public spectacle. 300 constables were on duty to prevent disturbances, while infantry and cavalry were on standby.
Ooh.
Like, this is a huge deal. So it ran through the day and the night of the following morning. Lawyers going back and forth, different defenses. McDougal and Burke were being tried together, and people objected to that because they're saying she wasn't an active participant in the murder. And Burke's defense lawyer protested that his client was charged with 3 unconnected murders committed at a different time and at a different place. So he said, obviously it wasn't him. They went back and back about the legality of being able to try when there were no bodies, right? Because most of the bodies were gone. Mm-hmm. And the judge decided that they had to split McDougal and Burke. And so they had different trials. They both pleaded not guilty. They called in all these witnesses, and there was 55 witnesses that included Hare and his wife and the doctor. So there's like a lot of evidence. So when Hare took the stand, obviously he was betrayed, like Burke was portrayed, and it was a whole big thing. So on Christmas Day, the jury left and came back 15 minutes later. It was delivered a guilty verdict against Burke for the murder of Margaret. The same charge against McDougal they found not proven, and so they passed a death sentence against Burke. And this was the quote: "Your body should be publicly dissected and anatomized, and I trust that if it is ever customary to preserve skeletons, yours will be preserved in order that posterity may keep in remembrance your atrocious crimes." Which is like, damn. A plus judgery, honestly. So McDougal was released at the end of the trial. She went home. She went and bought whiskey and was confronted by a mob who was angry at the not proven verdict. She was taken to a police building for her own protection. The mob laid siege to it, and she had to escape through a back window. She tried to see Burke, but she wasn't allowed to, so she left Edinburgh the next day, and no one knows what happens to her.
No conjugal visits for you.
Burke made a confession because both the Catholic and the Presbyterian clergy were like, bro, you better confess because God will smite you. And so he had 2 different people telling him that. So Burke made another confession that was super detailed because he's already on death sentence. And he placed much of the blame for the murders on Hare.
Of course he did.
Mm-hmm. So in January, a petition was put on behalf of James Wilson's mother and sister, who was one of the murder victims, protesting against Hare's immunity and intended release from prison. So the mom and sister of one of the murder victims were like, he did it. Like, you're just going to release him out, and you know that he helped kill my son and my brother. And so they had a whole petition passed. Margaret Hare, so Hare's wife, was released, and she went to Glasgow to try and get back to Ireland. And while waiting for the ship, she was recognized and attacked by a mob. So she was given shelter at the police station and got a police escort onto a Belfast-bound ship. And nothing knows what happens to her either. So, like, both the wives were literally run out of town to where they had to disappear.
Damn.
Burke was hanged in the morning of January 28th in 1929 in front of a crowd that was as possibly as large as 25,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, so everyone went into the tenement buildings, on the roofs and the windows. People charged to sit in their windows, like several, like 5 to 20 shillings to sit in the windows to watch. And on February 1st, his corpse was publicly dissected by Professor Morrow in the Anatomy Theater of the University's Old College. So police had to be called in large numbers because students gathered demanding access to the lecture, for which a limited number of tickets had been issued. And there was a riot. And calm was restored only after one of the university professors negotiated with the crowd that they would be allowed to, like, see the body after the dissection. So basically, he's like
all pinned open.
Yeah, he's like, you can
like
see
a
it.
butterfly.
You can see it, but not right now.
Like a parent placating
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
children.
So the procedure lasted 2 hours. Monroe dipped his quill pen into Burke's blood and wrote, "This is written with the blood of William Burke, who was hanged in Edinburgh. This blood was taken from his head.
Damn, so death metal of you. I love it.
Well, he is a, surgeon.
Yeah.
So, Burke's skeleton was given to the Anatomical Museum of Edinburgh Medical School, where, as of 2018, it remains. Yes. He has a death mask and a book said to be bound with his tan skin, also at the Surgeons Hall Museum.
Edinburgh knows how to do shit.
They really got him good. So, Hare was released on 5th of February. His extended stay in custody had been undertaken for his own protection. So they were going to release him, because that was the deal. And he literally was afraid to leave the police station.
Fair.
He was assisted in leaving Edinburgh in disguise by the mail coach. So they literally had to smuggle him out. One of its stops, he was recognized by a fellow passenger, a junior counsel who represented Wilson's family.
Oh, shit.
Stanford informed his fellow passengers of Harry's identity. On arrival, the news of Harry's presence spread and a large crowd gathered at the hostelry where he was due to stay the night. Police had arrived and arranged for a decoy coach to draw off the crowd while Harry escaped through the back window and into a carriage which took him to the town's prison for safekeeping.
Damn.
Crowds surrounded that building, stones are thrown at the door and windows, and street lamps are smashed before 100 special constables arrived to restore order. In the morning, a sheriff and a militia guard, he was taken out of town and instructed to make his way to the English border. And there have been no sightings of him since.
Oof.
So the doctor refused to make any public statements about what happened.
I'm sure he did. His ass was in the clear.
So everyone thought he was culpable in the events. They think that the other two were way too dumb to pull this off on their own. So they literally think he was like, hey, I'll pay you money. And I'll give you a little extra as hush money if you start murdering people. A committee cleared him, but a whole bunch of people literally built an effigy and burned it in the hall. The committee cleared him of anything, but he did resign from his position.
Sure he did.
Yeah.
And was excluded from university life by his peers, so he left and went to mainland Europe. While working in London, he found foul regulations of the Royal College of Surgeons and was debarred from lecturing. He was removed from the roll of fellows of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, where he worked as a cancer doctor, as an oncologist, until he died. But, literally everyone shunned him. So, there's a lot of pop culture. Robert Louis Stevenson's The Body Snatcher, which is cool. There are tons of books, tons of stage shows. Something that's interesting is, because 3 of the 4 murderers literally disappeared without a trace, it's, fun. Even though we know who we are, we don't know what happened to any of them, so it's, fun to fill in the blanks. There's a lot of, historical fiction geared towards women that focuses on the wives, which is really interesting. It's, I don't know. I meant 16 victims is obviously horribly sad. Especially because they were victims who were clearly taken advantage of for one reason or another.
Right.
But, in the grand scheme of things, there were worse people in Edinburgh at the time. Creepier, I guess. Not necessarily worse. But there were creepier people. But, Edinburgh was not having it. Literally, the surgeon wrote a note in his blood as they publicly dissected him. And then they put his skeleton in a box and have kept it there for almost 300 years.
That box to myself. And when it arrived, smash it with a hammer.
It's brilliant. Yeah, anyways, I just I meant, it's a very sad story. And I don't think justice was fully served in the case of Hare and the wives. But I feel like they may have gone a smidge overboard with Burke.
Worth it.
But I don't think it would fly nowadays, but
No, but I mean,
I would love to go see his skeleton, so there's that. I don't know what that makes me. I know. They were like, you want to sell people to put their bodies on display? Well, you know what?
You're gonna be on display for all eternity.
I mean, it's
We're gonna sign it in your fucking brain blood.
It is beautiful poetic justice.
Yeah.
You literally, the drama of Edinburgh. They couldn't just hang him. They're like,
Edinburgh, of course.
we're gonna dissect you and bind a book in your skin and write notes in your blood, and we're gonna say where I took the blood from, just so everyone knows it's your head blood.
Which is ironic because they burned the witches, but that is like hella witchy shit right there.
They were.
I'm gonna bind a book in your front.
Well, my favorite thing is, like, moms were, like, not having it. They were like, we're gonna kill them all. They're like, you know what, Doc? We're gonna burn an effigy of you outside your window, and none of the other doctors are gonna talk to you until you get run out of the country.
Nope.
I mean, there was some sass involved, but it's like, there's a lot of research on it. I just kind of skimmed the top and hit the main points, because honestly, what happens after they're caught is far more interesting in this case.
Yeah.
So it is sad. They definitely took advantage of their victims and literally would use alcohol to, like, decapacitate them. And
Yeah.
it is a story that has worked its way into lore and ghost, and it's very Edinburgh, so I had to cover it. But like the after effects are very interesting.
Well,
so that's Burke and Hare.
Yeah. Well, to cap us off, I have a fun tweet that I found, and it made me giggle. Speaking of the penguins in the Edinburgh Zoo.
Oh my god!
So here's the tweet. It's by Shalala. Shalayla, and it says, quote, "Boy in the pub was telling me his job is a penguin erector, so every time a plane flies over Edinburgh Zoo, the penguins can't take their eyes off of it and end up falling over, and he just goes around picking them back up. 38 penguins, 2,000 flights a day."
I want that job, though.
Penguin erector.
Not where I thought that was going, but I like that one better.
Well, we
I'm
hope you enjoyed.
literally shocked. That is
She is shooketh.
that is the best job. Those sweet baby birds just fall over like, oh, and they need help. But no.
Ping me down, ping me down.
They said, oh, what's that? And then they just fall over. Those sweet baby birds. They can't even fly.
Dude, next time we fly anywhere near Edinburgh, I'm like, the penguins, though.
Oh my god! We get to be a part of it. The penguins.
The pingies.
Oh, so cute.
Well, we hope you enjoyed your tour of Edinburgh. Bye.
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 Follow us on Instagram at Darkside Tour Guides and on Twitter at Darkside Guides. Give us a like on Facebook at Darkside Tour Guides. Visit the blog at darksidetourguide.wordpress.com or email us at darksidetourguides@gmail.com.